Welcome to the Hudson Show. Coming up, how Taco Bell is about to take you back in time. Also, what do you do if you're about to put in your 2 weeks notice and your coworker beats you to it? All that and more on the way next. It is the Hudson Show from RadioU. Have you seen the videos going around of the Cosm? It is a sports bar in Los Angeles. There's also one in Dallas, but it's so much more than a sports bar. The best way to describe it is probably like the Sphere in Las Vegas, but like a sports bar. It's like IMAX theater for watching sports at. The videos that have gone viral after it just recently opened are what it was like to experience a Manchester United versus Fulham soccer game. And it is hard to overstate how much it actually looks like you are sitting at the game when you're at this sports bar. But not only at the game, how much it looks like you're in the very front row. You're on the pitch, as they say in soccer. It looks absolutely unbelievable. Let me tell you why this makes me nervous. Because this could possibly be better than actually going to an actual game. And the prices now, the prices where you start to run into stuff, because like the cheapest for one of their upcoming soccer games they broadcast this way at the Cosm, you're talking $83 just to get in the door. So it very well may be cheaper to go to a game still, even though your seats aren't going to be as good as sitting indoors. And it looks like you're sitting right on the pitch for a soccer game or a football game or whatever events they are broadcasting here. But that notwithstanding, if this is a better experience, if this is more worthwhile than going to sports games in person, why is this a problem to me? Because we know, like, if fans are going to start choosing, I can go watch at the Cosm instead of going to the actual game, the stadiums are going to empty out. Maybe they'd have to lower the prices even more, which would be great, but their stadiums possibly empty out. And we know that watching sports on TV with no fans around, with a much less crowded stadium, it's just not as magical. And we know from COVID, NFL games, from watching the Oakland A's, that if there's no fans in the stands, it just doesn't feel the same. It doesn't have that same magic. So, I don't know. I mean, it is awesome. Would I do this 100%? I can't afford it either, but it looks so cool. And so hopefully this is a thing that expands, and then other sports teams just have to better their experience as well and lower their prices so that it's a win-win for everybody. It's the Hudson Show. I think I'm done with hiking with the wilderness for a while. I already did Tennessee, did the Smoky Mountains, did some hiking there earlier this year. This weekend, it was kind of a little mini family reunion. We got an Airbnb out in the woods. We went hiking, and I'm starting to think that bug spray is just a lie. Is there any proof? Because with sunscreen, right? Like similar things, I feel. Sunscreen, you can tell because you put on the sunscreen. If you miss a spot, that one spot will get sunburned. With bug spray, how do I know that the little spots that I'm lathering up in bug spray and I'm still getting bitten with bugs? Is that because I missed a couple spots? Or bugs that discerning that they're able to tell, here's the one exposed part of his skin on his arm that he did not spray with the bug spray? Or is it actually just all just a lie? Is bug spray actually just lying to me completely? Because that's what it feels like. I kid you not, I have a bug bite on the bottom of my foot. It's driving me crazy. I think I'm done. I think I'm going to stay indoors the rest of the year. I seem to have struck a chord with my bug spray talk, because many people chiming in either with remedies or we heard from Zach. Zach says bug spray has to have DEET in it. I mean, doesn't it all have DEET in it? What am I doing if there's different kinds of bug spray and some tell you right on the bottle by saying they don't have DEET, they tell you that they don't work? I think I just bought normal bug spray, Zach. It doesn't seem to be working. I mentioned I have one on the bottom of my foot. Prior to that, I don't even know how this is possible. I got one on the bottom of my foot. Yes, was I walking around in flip-flops? Yeah. Not while I was hiking, just around the Airbnb in the woods. But I also previously had a bug bite right by my belly button. I hadn't been outside shirtless. Riddle me that. How are these bugs? Maybe the bugs are just getting too crafty. Could be the problem. Regina says she's with me. She has the tiki torches set up all around her yard. Doesn't seem to be doing anything to phase the bugs whatsoever. Sometimes I think that attracts them, I think. And Susanna, I actually like her thoughts. I'm going to go try this right now. She says, heat a spoon under hot water as hot as you can without burning yourself and press it to the bite. I'm going to, I've got to actually go do that right now. Hopefully we have some metal spoons. Does it work with plastic spoons, Susanna? It's time for our box office breakdown. Looking at what made money and what didn't in theaters over the weekend. What did make money? Your number one movie in the nation, Alien Romulus, in its debut, made over $41 million in North America. Not too shabby at all, especially when you think about an R-rated movie, a horror movie, getting to number one. $41 million, that's pretty good. Getting Alien back in good graces. Number two, no surprise, Deadpool and Wolverine, another $29 million. It Ends With Us was number three, $24 million. Twisters still in the top five, showing up at number four with $9.8 million. Number five, a movie that came out 15 years ago, Coraline, in its 15th anniversary re-release, made over $8 million to round out the top five. Conspicuously missing from the top five. In fact, all the way down to number 10. So sad. Borderlands. That movie just absolutely horrible. You'd think Jack Black, Cate Blanchett, Kevin Hart, you think it'd do better than $2 million in its second week and number 10 at the box office. Nuts. Not good. What did you get to see this weekend or recently? Let me know at 8772 Radio U. The last thing I watched, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, because it's now on Hulu. And let's say not as good as any of the other recent three, the previous trilogy of Planet of the Apes, the series that continues on. However, still worth watching really just for the visuals alone. It is actually insane what they are able to accomplish, making those apes look so real. I mean, it's not perfect all the time, but still remarkably impressive that a movie that obviously has no real apes and it's all computer animated is so convincingly real most of the time. But it is, I mean, it's a solid movie. It's a good watch. It's just, it can't stack up to any of the previous three is where I'd say. 8772 Radio U. Let me know what you've watched recently. We are doing You Be the Judge on the Hudson Show. It's up to you to bring down a verdict on the man who is suing Buc-ee's in South Carolina. Buc-ee's, the gas station, of course, with the famous beaver mascot. This man is suing Buc-ee's because he claims he tripped over one of the cords that was tying down their giant inflatable Buc-ee beaver mascot, and that caused several injuries to him. He thinks Buc-ee's should have to pay for that. They were being negligent. Is it Buc-ee's fault or is it this guy's fault? 8772 Radio U. Amanda says he should have watched where he was going, but also don't cord covers exist? I think that feels fair that maybe both sides possibly a bit in the wrong here. Chris says, and I actually think this is very wise from Chris. He says it depends on where it was, because if it was by the front door, then there is some expectation that the cord. I mean, there's expectations that the cords are going to be holding down the mascot, but if they placed it right in front of the door, that's where people are supposed to be walking. And so it should have been denoted in some way. However, if it was over by the street and he was walking somewhere that wouldn't be a normal pathway anyways, then that's really obviously on him. I think that's pretty smart there from Chris. I was also thinking too, or Chuck, I should say, I was thinking too, let's say, right, that they had like a cone put up for the, to mark that like, hey, watch out, there could be a string here. But then what if he tripped over the cone? Could he sue? Like how do we decide when something is visible enough that it's like, if you trip on this is your own fault? I'm not exactly sure. I feel like you just gotta watch where you're going. I kind of think Buc-ee's should get off the hook on this one. This is so crazy. Tesla has job listings up right now. They want to hire people to act like robots because they use that to then teach their robots how to act. Don't really know how that makes any sense at all, but it pays up to $48 per hour, so I'm not going to ask any questions. In fact, I've been practicing. Beep boop. I am incapable of love. pretty good, right? You think they'll hire me? Taco Bell testing out a through the decades menu. A few select locations in California are getting to try this out right now. And then later this year, it should be going nationwide. It is a menu item from Taco Bell from each of the decades that they no longer serve, but they're about to. Imagine the nostalgia you could experience biting into a tostada from Taco Bell in the 60s or a green burrito from Taco Bell in the 70s. The 80s Mexi Melt, 90s Beef Gordita Supreme, in the 2000s the Caramel Apple Empanada. How many do you remember from that list? I'll tell you, the Caramel Empanada was my jam when I was growing up. I guess I'm still growing up, but it was my jam, and I'm excited to have that back if they do bring it back nationwide. Do you worry this, though, that like so many places now are bringing back like stuff from the past, nostalgia that you might remember from growing up? You ever worry that like you're going to try it and you're like, oh, I'm so excited for this thing from my childhood, and then you try it as an adult and you're like, oh, this is not as good as I remember? Or is that just me because I was at the Dollar Tree recently and saw those little hugs that I used to get after Little League games, you know, and I tried one of those and that was not as good as I remember. So it's just fresh in my mind, you know. I don't know. There's something I'm concerned about. But other than that, Taco Bell, new food, exciting. We got the Hudson hotline open.
877-2-RADIO-U.
The question is, what is one of the biggest disappointments you've ever experienced? 8772-RADIO-U. So the whole reason I bring this up is because I had a couple friends go to Niagara Falls. Not impressed. They said one of the big disappointments, just a bunch of water. I said it's the most water falling anywhere in the world. And they said not cool enough for them. 8772-RADIO-U. What's your biggest disappointment? Harrison got in at 8772-RADIO-U saying, my most disappointing moment was going to Legoland. It was so overhyped. Where even is Legoland? Does it exist? Is it still around now? Or is that a review that led to its demise? I don't even know. 8772-RADIO-U. We heard from Regina, who says, one, I think your friends are dead inside. Yeah, I might not disagree with that. She also says, Whataburger and In-N-Out were both just okay when I went a few years ago. I think I like fancier burgers, Regina says. That is, hey, those are fighting words for some people. I've never been to either still to this day, so I don't know, but I hope to at some point. Angela says the Hope Diamond. She thought it was going to be so much bigger than it actually is. That's one of those tough things, right? Because diamonds aren't very big. And so even when they say it's one of the biggest diamonds, you expect it to be so large, and then it doesn't have to be that big to be the biggest. So I understand that one. Let's see. Max, I knew somebody was going to say this. Max just says being an adult is overrated. I'm with you. Jim says the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Really, Jim? I kind of like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but I'm also a bit of a music nerd. 8772-RADIO-U. If you've got something that was massively disappointing to you, an experience that you thought did not justify the hype around it. Greg says Plymouth Rock. It's literally about a 3 feet wide rock with graffiti on it, and it's heavily disputed as to whether it's the actual rock the Pilgrims marked when they landed anyways. That's a good point. I've never seen Plymouth Rock, but I don't know. I was not that interested. Maybe there's not enough hype around it. 8772-RADIO-U. If you've got something that was hyped up for you and then really did not meet expectations. Got a few more people chiming in with their thoughts on some of the most disappointing overhyped things they've ever experienced. This all got started because I had some friends that were not impressed with Niagara Falls recently, and so they were massively disappointed by that. What's yours? Some of the good ones that have come in so far. Legoland. We heard about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Also, just got a text in from Kaylee who says Graceland was a huge disappointment. You know, with Elvis, she says a lot of homeless people, and it was actually just really sad. I feel that Graceland, I keep seeing it in the news, like it's been really mismanaged and there's been a lot of disputes over it, but it's sad that, I mean, just like so much other stuff with Elvis, that it's gotten to the situation that it is. We also heard from Philip, who says the Grand Canyon on a foggy day. Well, listen, Philip, the Grand Canyon is in Arizona. And so that is no surprise that it's disappointing. It's funny you mentioned that, though, because the very same people who went to Niagara Falls and said it was disappointing have been to the Grand Canyon and used that as a comparison and said Grand Canyon much better than Niagara Falls. I find that hard to believe, but they said, think about how many, like, you don't understand how many Grand Canyon or how many Niagara Falls can fit in the Grand Canyon. And I don't buy it. I think the Grand Canyon, my expectations are low. So I've never, if I go, I can't be disappointed. Charles says, I worked for an entertainment company that had the contract for classic rock band Judas Priest. Fun fact about them, one of their guitarists is on one of Demon Hunter's recent albums. He says he begged to get on the road with the tour, and once on the road, I wanted off of the road almost immediately. The crew and other drivers were extremely rude. I think we've learned a lesson here between the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Graceland, Judas Priest being on tour. Basically, just classic rock is disappointing, is what I'm coming to find out. We are doing Fired or Hire. This situation is simple. We have an employee who's been planning on starting a new job. He's getting things lined up. He was planning on submitting his 2 weeks at the end of the month. Problem is, one of his coworkers on his team also just submitted his 2-week notice, beat him to the punch, and now he's starting to feel some regret or concern. Should I still put in my 2 weeks, etc., etc.? Lots of good advice coming in here. I like what Todd says. He says, work your plan as intended. Your employees' staffing or employers' staffing issues are not your problem. If they were, you'd be management. Also, they've had every opportunity to incentivize you to stick with them and chose not to or are unable to. If your coworkers aren't happy for you in bettering yourself, they are worth leaving behind. Congratulations on your new job. I think Todd hits on something important there, which is if your coworkers aren't happy for you, then they're worth leaving behind. Because what are you really concerned about? Not the company and their bottom line in this situation, but you're worried about the people you've been working with. They might be kind of considered friends. At least know them well enough to know that you don't want to leave them high and dry. But at the end of the day, they should not be upset with you. It's not your fault that they're going to be short-staffed for a little while. We also heard from Andrew, who says they'll probably just use the same posting to hire 2 people instead. Your team will feel it a bit, but don't feel guilty or let the cat out of the bag until your initial plan. People leaving is part of the job. It's just bad luck. 2 people leaving at the same time. If you had a good relationship, you could even have a conversation with the team lead the day you submit your resignation and mention you'd like to do the right thing and offload your duties to ease the transition. I would say you actually don't even, I don't know. I feel like you could say that you're leaving early because you want to make it easy. You say, instead of giving 2 weeks, say, I'm giving a little extra notice. I already have this other job lined up, but because this other guy left, I'm going to give even more than 2 weeks because I want to just make sure it's not a surprise and you have more of a runway to get things taken care of. I like Regina, who says, if you've got a new job lined up, then submit your 2 weeks notice. Include in your resignation letter the things you appreciated and have no ill will. And maybe, I love this. Maybe bring in a treat as a goodbye to your team. There you go. There's something you can do to soften the blow for the people's feelings that may be slightly hurt. Brianna says, just submit your 2 weeks notice. If you weren't getting set up at your new job yet, you could maybe wait, but it's not fair to your new company. This is smart. It's not fair to your new company to drag your feet at the old one. Make sure your team knows and do your best to set them up for success before you leave. And Carrie finally says, that's absolutely a them problem. If they have multiple people leaving, that can be their opportunity to change for the better as a workplace. Or, I mean, maybe you want to be fair to the workplace. Like maybe they're doing the best they can and it's just bad luck that 2 people happen to find something better at the same time. It's not necessarily that they're not doing enough for their employees, but if they're doing all they can, then they can't do more to keep you around anyways. And so you should go. So don't worry. I understand why you feel guilty. I think we all do. But you got to move on. You got to rip the Band-Aid off and just get it over with so you can go somewhere where you will probably be happier and better off. Thanks for listening to The Hudson Show. Please don't forget to rate and review the podcast.